Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs and your favorite recurring segment, A Moment of Zeneca, or Moment of Zeneca. Moment of Zeneca. Important that I get this correct. We are going to talk about all the things today, the macroeconomic situation, the continuing bear market, and the, kind of stability of NFT market. We'll see. I'll get your thoughts on it. And then we're going to talk about VeeCon, where I was, Goblintown, which has been sweeping your Twitter feed, Moonbird's Oddities, Chimpers, OpenSea. I mean, so much to get into. There's been a crazy amount that's happened in the past 2 weeks since you and I last spoke.
Which feels like 2 decades, as it often does. But this one, I think, feels like longer than usual.
I know. It really feels like we haven't chatted in so long. It's great that we're here at the mics. All right. Yeah. Well, as always, though, before we get into all of the things, we need to hear a word from our lovely, lovely sponsors.
It's increasingly obvious that everything will become tokenized, and NFT marketplaces needs robust financial reporting, performance analysis, and the peace of mind that they are compliance ready. GILDED's NFT Ops is a one-stop financial reporting solution for growing NFT platforms. GILDED has developed marketplace-specific modules to track the financial performance of NFT creators, including revenue tracking, collection metrics, royalty payments, and revenue share. Customers of NFT Ops gain full access to accounting tools and powerful APIs for custom integrations that simplify operations, streamline reporting, and produce tax-ready data. So no wonder why so many top brands like CoinMarketCap, Gitcoin, Nifty's, and POAP trust GILDED to automate complex reporting workflows. Visit gilded.finance/bankless to learn more. RARIBLE is the NFT platform that's leading the charge into the multi-chain universe ahead of us. Available on Flow, Tezos, Polygon, and of course Ethereum, RARIBLE is the perfect place for NFT newcomers, profile picture collectors, and experienced NFT traders. RARIBLE has a variety of NFT features that set it apart from other NFT marketplaces. They have a native messaging function allowing you to DM your friends or haggle with sellers. They also have a mobile app on iOS and Android with a built-in NFT portfolio tracker tool, so you can easily check the value of your digital art portfolio. RARIBLE is built on the RARIBLE protocol, a multi-purpose, open source, and community-governed NFT protocol that helps build products and services across the NFT ecosystem, including white label marketplaces tailored to specific NFT communities. So go to rarible.com and start discovering and trading NFTs, putting in floor bids to join PFP communities, and DM with some brand new internet friends. If you're starting on your NFT journey, you need MetaMask. This is your tool to unlock the world of DeFi and NFTs without giving up custody over your private keys. MetaMask is both a secure in-browser wallet and also a secure bridge for your hardware wallet so that you can connect to any Web3 enabled website. You can now trade tokens with any DEX or aggregator. MetaMask Swap gathers real-time pricing information across the DeFi exchange ecosystem, allowing you to select your best price while getting all of the MetaMask benefits of self-custody, lower gas costs, and increased transaction success rates. MetaMask also has a fantastic mobile wallet, which I use while I'm out and about. And I use it to collect POAPs, NFTs, and use it for all my DeFi things while I'm away from home. If you haven't downloaded MetaMask, you gotta try it out. Download MetaMask for desktop and mobile at metamask.io, or load up your Ledger, Trezor, Keystone, or Lattice hardware wallets so that they too can get into Web3.
All right, Zeneca, we're back. I said relative stability of the NFT market, and you gave me a look for anybody who was not on the podcast. So I sense you do not feel like there's stability in the NFT market. Give me the macro update from your perspective.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like stability in both the NFT market and sort of like the crypto market. And up until, like, if we recorded this 12 hours ago, I would have been in much more agreement, but sort of woke up today and ETH was down, I think, 8%, 10%. It really just crashed. Now Carly's giving me a look with her eyes like,
no,
did you not see this?
I didn't know. So my fiance wrote a book, and the book came out yesterday. So we had like a big celebratory dinner and drinks and whatever. So the last 12 hours I've been less plugged in than I typically would be. So cool. Got it. Market crash. This is why we don't celebrate or do anything but track crypto markets at all times.
Right. It's, I mean, it's come back a bit. So it's been basically sitting at 2K. Well, ETH has been at 2K for like, since we last spoke 2 weeks. And that has certainly been relatively stable, and the NFT market's been doing various things. But then, yeah, today ETH was at, I think it hit 1750 at one point, so it was down 10%. Now it's back to 1900. And again, who knows, by the time this recording goes out, it could be wherever. But let's assume it settles around 2K, because that would be a nice result. And I think that, everyone would be happy, and I can sort of speak more to that than who knows, well, like whatever speculatively could happen. So as you alluded, it's been sort of relatively stable for the last 2 weeks. And I think that historically, when crypto is stable, so the price of ETH is stable, NFTs have a tendency to run. It's very difficult for NFTs to go like completely bonkers up or even down per se when ETH is like zigzagging all over the place, because people sort of want to see where it settles, and there's all sorts of other stuff going on. Not to mention gas is often high when ETH is doing a bunch of crazy stuff. But so we've seen ETH at 2K for a couple of weeks, and while the market is certainly bearish, like we're down so much from all-time highs, both in ETH terms and in USD terms, because the price of ETH has dropped. It's been feeling like the last week or so, I don't know, projects are like slipping through, and the good projects are minting out, and their floor price is going up. Blue chips had relatively stabilized, like there wasn't too much bleeding going on for like Bored Apes anymore. Doodles had sort of settled. Moonbirds were doing well. And yeah, I mean, it's sort of like we're setting into a new normal, and who knows how long this is going to last for. It could be another 2 days, and then bull market hits. It could be 3 more months of this. It could be 2 years. I don't think it's going to be 2 years, but yeah, who knows? It's been a nice, pleasant, stable period where, again, it's just like builders can build, and I can't say build without the meme.
Without the Kevin K money.
Yeah, I just can't say that word
He's
anymore.
ruined it for everyone.
Yeah, but anyway.
So it sounds like you think we're doing like a bounce along the bottom thing, right? Where we're relatively at the bottom, and we'll have some rallies, we'll have some falls, like we're seeing with ETH the last 12 hours, but that this is a bounce along the bottom moment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the optimist in me thinks. Obviously, there's a chance like ETH could drop to 1,200, 1,500, 900 in pretty disastrous scenarios, but I think given... And I think I might have spoken about this last time, the collapse of Terra, the Azuki drama, the macroeconomic situation in the world, everything going just crazy. I think the crypto market has shown like a resilience that it may not have shown in 2017. And that's sort of like, it's like this support level at, again, 2K-ish, that to me fills me with confidence, and just sort of like not even looking at metrics, this sentiment check, hanging out in Discords, talking to people. A lot of people who are bearish, even they are saying, all right, now I'm going to start buying, or like I'm setting in like dollar cost average sell orders in, laddering down at this point, and I'm not going to try and time the bottom and catch a falling knife, but I want to like start buying in because it seems like a good turnaround and there's a lot of good buying opportunities. So yeah, bounce across the bottom is my gun to my head. I would say I feel this is bottom-ish, but obviously no one really knows anything.
I would distinguish between NFTs and ETH in this case, or crypto, right? Largely, as markets mature, their bottoms get higher, obviously, and their fall in percentage terms gets lower. Like ETH fell, whatever it was, 95%, I think, in the last bull then crash market. And I don't know what it's fallen from its max here. I think it's 70% or 65 or something in that range, which is obviously a good percentage bit higher than the 95% it fell the last time. But I think you're seeing other alt ones fall more along those, or, those layer, one kind of Terra, Luna fully collapsed, but Avalanche, whatever, some of these others having these steeper falls, which I think is a result of their being newer, right? So Lana fell bigger because of the new ecosystems, and if they survive it next time around, the next crash, they'll fall less. Like people have been talking about this in terms of Amazon, right? Amazon fell 95% during the first, tech bubble collapse, and then every time there's been bear markets, it's fallen less and less till now. It's obviously a deeply stable company in many ways. NFTs are weird because NFTs are newer, right? They're not Ethereum. They haven't been around in the kind of market that exists today since 2014, the way Ethereum has, 2015. So I have been surprised that they haven't fallen further. Obviously, you have some projects that I just basically have no liquidity and are dead, and it almost makes me nervous that there's more of a crash to come because it feels better than I thought it was going to be. And that just makes me very nervous. I also think if you want to make the super bear case, Michael Burry, do you know who Michael Burry is?
Oh, the bot. Yeah. No, I'm thinking Dr. Burry. Sorry.
Michael Burry is the one, he got famous because of The Big Short. If you've seen that movie or read that book, he basically called the 2008 crisis. Now, he was way too early, but he's like this freak, right, who was literally reading the details of the mortgages that had been given out. So he could quite literally see that like all these mortgages had been given to people who really could not afford their mortgage. And so he was like hand picking mortgage-backed securities, like these that he wanted to bet against, because he could see that the underlying, like that the people who had bought these houses like couldn't afford them. So he was like hand-picking the ones that he thought were going to fail. And of course he did very, very well during 2008 because he just shorted basically the whole subprime mortgage market. And he's making the case that we have still much further to fall, and he's looking at the equities market in particular and showing that like we're still like above historical averages, and that if we fell another 50% or something, you would still be in line with some historical averages. You know, I'm no Michael Burry, but again, I'm sort of a cynic. So like I hear somebody who I respect make that case and I'm like, that's it. Further to fall. So anyway, I'm a little bit bracing for there's still more pain ahead, and that this isn't just bounce along the bottom. Though I think ETH is probably, I don't think ETH will go below like 1,500. I think ETH is actually probably close to its bottom. Long rant over.
Yeah. It really is interesting when you look at NFTs, because like every NFT collection is sort of different and distinct and sort of has their own little micro market. But also it's like, there's this strong correlation with ETH, and then it's like, maybe it's fallen, let's say Bored Apes have fallen, I don't know, almost 50% from their all-time high in ETH terms. But then if you look at it in USD terms, it's like 70, 80, 75% or something. It's really, I mean, gone down a lot, same with punks and stuff. So obviously there's always more room to fall, but I think, if Bored Apes and say, Moonbirds are probably down the same. They're down 40% in ETH terms from all-time high, and then maybe 60, 70% in USD. That's a pretty sizable drop. And these are like the better collections. There's so many lower tier collections that are down 80, 90% from their all-time high in ETH, and then so it already is at the 95% mark if you look at it in USD terms. Obviously, there's more room to fall, but I don't know. NFTs are so strange to me because... And I know this is a dangerous way of thinking, but they're just so unlike any other asset market. Like the emotional connection people have, the fact that you only need a few thousand people deciding, hey, I don't want to sell at below this price, and have a strong community. They're almost like mini cults, and it's really strange. But it's you just need a certain number of people going, I value my Goblin at 2 ETH. I'm not going to sell it less than that, or a Bored Ape at 90. And there's basically just, if there's no new sellers, then even if there's no new buyers, the market's not going to crash necessarily. Yeah,
but if there are no new buyers, price becomes an illusion. Well, because like you can say the prices. Well, and I'll talk about this in a minute, because we'll get to this when I talk a little bit about Chimpers, because that was a project that was blowing my mind. I was messaging you about it. Like, how have I not heard of this Chimpers project? And then I think I've found my answer, but we'll get there. So you're right. NFTs are weird. The emotional connection. There's so many dependencies to this market that don't exist necessarily in other markets. Like, you just don't feel an attachment to your Amazon equity, like your Amazon stock, the way you're going to your dead fella. And that does create a totally different dynamic. I think if things really crash further though, and the macro geopolitical situation, for example, gets worse, if any number of these kind of tenuous situations right now that feel a little bit stable, not that Ukraine is stable, but if we're here in the West, we're lucky enough to kind of not be feeling it. If they get a little bit worse in any way, I think that, people are going to start selling NFTs because they're down from their all-time highs, but who's to say those all-time highs were remotely the correct valuation? And that's where it's a little bit, it just gets funky. So anyways, not trying to be the doomsayer here. Obviously, please everyone, I'm still not selling, right? Like, I've had NFTs even go up. I mean, my V friends are up, and I haven't sold anything. I'm still white knuckling it. I believe in a lot of these projects in the long term. I'm still just trying to wrap my head around, how do we price these things? This is the first time with this market that we're having a bear market like this, within the NFT market after such a bull run in the NFT market, because all of this is so brand new. So we just don't know how any of this is going to shape out.
Yeah. I mean, we sort of had a little bit of it last year in August, the bull market, and then like October, November, December was bearish. And
it felt different though, didn't it?
It did, but like every cycle feels different, which is strange, because we had a similar thing in like May last year as well. And then, it sort of like bounce back. Even this year.
But in May of last year, it's like you had like CyberCon. It's like, what even?
Yeah. May
like
of last year, there was
four
like
projects.
4 people buying. Yeah, it's very different then.
I mean, you didn't even have Bored Apes yet. Bored Apes aren't even a year old.
No, they are. They had their 1 year birthday.
I thought Bored Apes were in July.
No, April 30th. I think 30th or like end of April. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyway.
Bad Carly.
Basically a year.
Bad influencer.
Yeah. But that's still like, they're basically a year old. January we had like a bullish month, and then like it's sort of been a slow bleed ever since then. But then April, I think we saw another like spike up, all-time highs for a bunch of projects, and then crashing down again. And I don't know. No one knows. Like it's just throwing darts at a dartboard. And so I wrote a Twitter thread this morning talking about if you're feeling, and I've mentioned this before, if you're feeling really like sick to your stomach, your heart sinking and anxious and depressed, it's often just a sign that you're overextended, you're over leveraged, your portfolio management and the allocation diversification is just off whack. And so you should use this as a sign that, well, maybe I have too much of my portfolio in NFTs and I should have some in, not that the other asset classes are doing fantastic right now, but even stable coins and cash, like that should be a part of your portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I learned that lesson this time. I had enough of angst when it felt like there was a night there where I really was like, is this all going to go to zero? Like, like, is it literally all going to be wiped out? And it of course wasn't. But in that moment I was like, ooh, okay, I'm feeling things that indicate to me that I let myself get a little bit too deep in this hole. And it is a great, if you're fortunate enough that you're still paying your bills and all the rest of it, like, it's a good learning experience, and it's something you can take forward with you. Last thing I'll ask on this macro front before we move on to some of the specific happenings going on in the world in NFTs today. Are you tracking the merge at all, and have any thoughts on that and the price of ETH? I have some thoughts.
I am loosely tracking it. I mean, I sort of hear things on Twitter and in places, and it seems, last I heard, it was looking really good to be happening around like August, and then I saw a Twitter thread yesterday, the day before, about how I think on the Beacon chain there was a reorg of the block, basically, so they had to like 7 blocks were confirmed and they had to go back and undo it, which we hadn't seen on mainnet for years and years and years, and it might be a sign that more work needs to be done so that we avoid that. And I'm nowhere near technically minded enough to know if that's going to delay it or anything, but prior to that, everyone sort of anyone really seemed bullish that it was going to happen in
August or September.
August, yeah.
Yeah. In case somebody doesn't know what we're talking about, this is moving to proof of stake on Ethereum, which is going to be very, I think, bullish for ETH in general, when it happens. So there's a great Bankless episode. I'll plug my, parent company, you can call it, Bankless, the lovely Bankless. They did an interview with a guy named Hal Pressfield called Betting the Fund on the Merge, if you want to go check out that episode. And this is a kind of a TradFi guy who's gotten very into crypto and has a hedge fund and is basically like betting heavily on the merge, really pumping the price of ETH based on supply demand dynamics. And just, he makes a really strong case why, supply basically falls, creating, price pumps after we move to proof of stake and like expense revenue dynamics, right? Like Ethereum generates revenue, and right now a lot of the expenses are tied into the fact that it's proof of work, and when it moves to proof of stake, those expenses fall. So if you're like evaluating it like a business, those are really favorable dynamics. Anyways, I certainly can't articulate it this way he did, but I would say go check it out. He was bullish that it would happen in August, September. Interesting to hear what you just said. I hadn't been tracking the Beacon chain piece, so I know they're right now testing on a couple different test nets and different chains. So that's the process they're in now. And if those go, I think, relatively smoothly, that's when the August timeline should be hit. I
saw a tweet again, I think this morning, sort of like the bear case for the merge, not basically saying, what if the merge has already been priced in? Because like everyone knows that it's coming, but or rather, a successful merge has been priced in, but like a delay or unsuccessful merge has not. And yes, maybe that's the case, but it's been delayed like 20,000 times already. I feel like, honestly, that I would say a lot of people are still saying, they would hear, the merge is coming in August, and they're like, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. It's going to come next year. It's going to be delayed again and again and again. So
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's priced in. The other thing that Hal got into, I mean, maybe it's priced in a little, but I think too many people are still a little bit uncertain about it. Hal got into, like, if you were to look at, like, evaluate it on like a price to earnings basis. And again, earnings depends on how you consider expenses and how, you know, you can play with these numbers, but I forget their specifics, but it's basically like right now the P/E ratio on ETH would be like the 165 or something, but that after the merge, it'll drop down to like 5 or again, wow. I probably butchered these numbers, but it's dramatic, it's you know, according to the way that he's looking at this, and he lays out a compelling case. So it's just hard to me, you know, looking at it from that lens, it's hard to see it as being priced in because the PDE, whatever the PDE ratio was, just felt so obviously off based on what it should be. I don't know. Go listen to the Hal Pressfield episode again, parroting some of this. So always go direct to the source. But wanted to address that because I feel like the NFT market isn't talking about it that much, but it's certainly going to impact us. So
yeah.
Okay. Any projects you're eyeing right now? We sort of talked about this each time we've been at the bear market. Or every time we've talked during the bear market.
That have dipped.
Existing projects that you're like considering buying. Has your strategy changed at all? Or are you still white knuckling it?
I'm basically holding. I'm selling goblins because I bought a bunch of them and they've gone crazy.
That's hilarious that you bought all these goblins. I want to talk about that.
We'll get into that. That's the only thing I'm really selling. I'm buying art blocks is basically the only thing that I'm buying still because I have literally, and I say this, excuse me, like every month or 2 months, and it's become like a running meme in my group chat. But I see something, I'm like, I've never been more bullish on art blocks than I am now. And I saw Snowfro speak. He was speaking in Stanford yesterday, and like there was just a Zoom link and just hearing him talk for 20 minutes about art blocks to a room of curious, interested people asking questions about how it works. It was inspiring, and again, just made me feel infinitely bullish on art blocks and generative art in general. So basically all the stuff I'm buying is there, or I'm mostly just holding actually. Yeah.
I'm interviewing Snowfro at Consensus. So if y'all are going to be at Consensus,
oh my God, come
hang out.
Wow.
I'm looking at cyber brokers. I mentioned that I've been looking at Flyfish Club. And then of course, like after I said that, it was like 2.3, 2.4 and I was looking at it and it's now like 3.7. I'm like, cool, missed that boat. Cyber brokers, it's down like 2.3, 2.2.
Yeah, I actually bought one.
Getting tempting, you did?
Yesterday. That was when the goblin floor flipped this. I was just like, this is ridiculous. I sold goblins and bought cyber brokers. And I'm probably
what was the goblins high? Is that like 1.2 last time I saw it? 1.2?
2.5, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's over 2 still.
No, it's not. Check it right now. Check it right now. You're telling me right now it's over 2?
2.18 is
Shut
the floor.
The front door. This industry is so weird. I'm not cut out for this shit.
We kind of deserve just to go to 0.
This is why I'm so cynical, because I'm looking, okay Bears. I was like, and not okay Bears. No. There's okay Duck Yacht Club. I was like, that's it. I quit. I fucking quit.
I know. I'm just waiting for the not okay Duck Yacht Club.
Bear. Probably flip goblins. God damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, well, we got to do it. Let's do Goblintown then. So cyber brokers, you bought one, great. I know I should probably, but I'm just like white knuckling. I can't. I don't know. It's the human psychology of like, you know, I'll buy once it all pumps again. You know, I'll buy the top.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Goblintown. Okay, Goblintown, Goblintown.wtf. I feel like this thing has a bunch of names. It feels like it came out of nowhere. I was trying to get to like the origin story of this, but I realized they don't have a Discord, which I actually love, and I'll get to that. But you wanna talk about goblins when you decided to start buying in? What prompted you? The story?
Yeah. It basically came up out of nowhere. It's like this stealth project. No one knows who's behind it, or the team. It's,
you know, my favorite. Love those.
Yeah, exactly. It's although I would say, like, again, similar to Azuki, it's like they've executed well. Like they're good at marketing, which, you know, for better or worse is anyway. I just heard about them as you hear about most projects. It's just like, oh, I'm in a Discord. Someone mentioned it in Zen Academy. I think someone mentioned it in Proof. I was in and out of calls, meetings, podcast stuff, and so I just kind of ignored it. And then I got a couple of DMs from people saying, do you like free mints, or like maybe like this is a website you might like this. So I actually clicked on and went to the website, and that's when I was like, this is cool.
Because the website's sick.
Website's well made. The art's cool. The music is just thematically really nice. And then it just got me with all the right buzzwords. Free mint, CC0, no roadmap. Like, that's me. And then like I've aped into so many projects. Like, if someone out there wants to like target me and get me to mint your project, that's just put that in, yeah. But it had minted out. Like, it was free mint, 1 per wallet, 10K collection. And I was like, all right. And then I saw on secondary, it was like 0.03 something. And I mean, I was just like, I just liked it. And that's without even considering the meme. Like, people have been talking about Goblintown for, I don't know, a couple of months on Twitter, just memeing about going to Goblintowns as the bear market. You go to Goblin. It's just like, yeah. And
wait, I need you to explain that more. I haven't seen that. So Goblintown is just like a term for the bear market?
Kind of, yeah. It's just like, we're going to, I don't know exactly where it originated from. I think in Lord of the Rings there's a Goblintown, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know exactly the etymology of the meme, but it is you know, the memeology, whatever, the origin story. It's
great phrase, the etymology of the meme.
Yeah. But I had heard it like 50 times on crypto Twitter over this year basically. And so power in memes, it's I would just almost never bet against memes. And it was also at a time in the market where everyone was sort of down and depressed and just like they wanted something fun. And again, free mint is just like that's a good thing. Like, people aren't like, the team was not going to make any money unless the project did well, basically. So I think that maybe that's why people were more happy to support an anonymous team. And obviously they made just a ton of money off royalties now, and they kept 1,000. Which
I can tell you exactly what they've made off royalties as of last night. I was doing some math.
You
on
did
this.
some math? Yeah.
I think I did this right. So the average price of it so far, that's what, OpenSea will show you the average price. The average price is like 0.32.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound low? I think that's probably right.
Maybe, but
average price on OpenSea.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's just OpenSea, because there would be other marketplace. Anyways, on OpenSea it was like average price 0.32. There'd been like 5.7 or 5,700 volume, trading volume, multiplied that together, and then
I don't think you have to multiply the trading. You just look at, it says OpenSea has volume traded, and like right now it's 9,400 ETH, and that's just the entire amount of sales. So it's just like whatever the royalty percentage is of that. So 7.5%.
So I fucked that up.
9,400.
Think I'm so clever, and I way overcomplicated it. Cool.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Anyway, they probably made about like 700 ETH from OpenSea in secondary.
Damn. Yeah, that's way higher than I thought. Because I was trying to do the math, and I did the math stupid because I wasn't thinking the volume traded was literally an ETH, but you're 100% right. And so I was like, wow, they've made way less money than I thought they would have.
Well, great. Hopefully,
Hopefully, y'all just learned something about how to calculate this. Everyone's like, "Yeah, we already knew how." You're the one idiot who was like trying to do like extra math on this. Okay, so 700 ETH. Yep, made a killing.
Yeah. No, but they kept 1,000 for the team as well, which that was the one thing that I was like, I'm okay with that if there's no royalties.
Yeah.
But and which obviously the team should get rewarded if they produce something and it does well. I think doing both is a little greedy, even for a free mint, but that's nitpicking. Anyway, it took off. The community loved it, memed it, ran with it. There was a Twitter Spaces last night that was literally the most fun I've had in a Twitter space in history. It was just goblins talking goblin talk and just making goblin sounds. And then like,
oh my god,
yeah, it reminds me of the ape clubhouses where people. I was never actually in these, but I've heard that back in like early days of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, people would just make ape noises, and then goblins were doing that, and then like people would come up and like ask a question, they'd like, and then they'd just try talking normally, and then they'd just be like human, and then just really just stay in character, and then
was
K
it the
Money got up there
Goblintown
and,
team?
Yeah, the Goblin Count Twitter account, and then I don't know who else is up there, just a bunch of people with Goblin PFPs, whether it was community members having fun or the team members, but yeah, then K Money got up, and then there were like 2,000 people listening a space for like hours of just the Goblintown community team just making sounds at it was like 6 a.m. for me, and I was couldn't to tune out. It was fun. It was wild.
Wow, that's hilarious. I'm with you. I like the bold in your face. This is what we are. This is who we are. It's what I loved about your Zen Academy thing was you were like, yeah, I'm literally promising you nothing. Like, don't buy this if you don't have the money for it. Like, you know, like just like anti-marketing on your part of just like, this is quite literally, I'm telling you exactly what this is going to be and you should know exactly what you're getting. And then, you know, so, and what you're not getting. And, you know, so they're sort of like, it's a free mint. Royalties are 7.5%, right? Like we're holding 1,000 of them. There's no Discord. There's no roadmap. It's CC0. Just like, fuck it. Like that. I really respect that kind of very upfront vibe. And it was incredibly well marketed. In terms of the website was great and all the rest of it. So I fully respected the project. If you're going to do a free mint, like and you're going to be really upfront about everything that you are and you aren't, like I don't hold you responsible for then whatever's going to come later. Right. Or people are like, well, it's not worth 2 ETH. Well, you know, y'all did this, you know what I mean? Like, and so, but it does strike me that it's fully, you know, you say it's betting on memes, which is true, but it feels like it fits into this broader category of like this space rewards vagueness and punishes specificity, which is to say, this project was very specific in that it has no plans, you know, and there's something about just like, who knows, like it can be anything that the space tends to just pump up. And then projects that have a very clear map of what they're trying to do actually end up getting sort of price suppressed relative to these other projects that pump for that. And that I find to be a strange dynamic that I don't love about the space. Now, we haven't figured out how to price things in. Like if you are making a movie, if you are making a show, what does that mean you're worth? It's hard to know. But this did feel like it fit into that broader challenge. There's also there's been these like rumors, like it's part of Fluff World, it's part of Yuga. Seems like all of that is sort of unconfirmed.
Yuga one seems, it was probably the biggest one and people were running with it for a while. Maybe some people still think, I don't think it's at all affiliated. It just seems very unlikely, just to me, but who knows? The Fluff World one, I think Fluff World or the team behind Fluff World, they have their own Goblin project and it's like an entirely different thing, and I think people just confuse the two. I heard someone say they thought Beeple was behind this, and it's crazy, the rumors, but the reality is we don't know much, if at all. I think the Yuga one, it just doesn't seem right to me.
I agree. I don't think it's
some of the traits are like, they have like there's like a trait dissing Azuki. It's like someone's wearing a shirt and it's got like Tendies, Funks, Zunks, Azuki, and that's just like, that's one of the traits. And then there's a McDonald's hat as a trait, and it's like Yuga would not, you put a McDonald's hat on anyway, or a NASA suit. I
agree. I don't think it's them. Okay, let's talk. We've got a lot on the agenda today. We've got Oddities. I went to VeeCon. Was sad you weren't there, but
it would have been great.
Yeah, I'll see you at NFT NYC. Let's do Oddities. This is another one that I'd love to have you walk me through as a non-Moonbirds holder. Tears. There's a lot of pain associated with tracking what the Moonbirds ecosystem is doing. So, so tell me what's going on with Oddities.
Yeah, so Oddities it was basically a free airdrop to anyone who had a nested Moonbird. So nesting is basically like staking without staking. Yeah. It doesn't actually leave your wallet, but they want to reward people who... The basic idea, I think, behind it was they want to reward people who have held their Moonbird for longer. And I think Kevin's analogy was like, if someone bought a Bored Ape just before Ape Drop, they got the same amount of rewards as someone who held from day one. And so anyway, they said if you're in advance of Oddities, they were teasing it around, just an image of it, and they said airdrop coming if you're nesting. So people knew that they could get it, and most people had their Moonbirds nested. And then they just airdropped these, what are they? They're like...
Pellets, yeah.
Like, and Oddities, I think, are bird vomit, or is sort of what I'm which is just insane that it's so valuable. But prior to the airdrop, Kevin was talking about how this is an artist that's like, everyone knows the artist, and et cetera, et cetera. And then afterwards, it was revealed the artist is Gremplin, who is just a super OG prolific artist in the space, the Cryptodes project, amongst many other... Nouns DAO, one of one art. Yeah, instrumental in Nouns DAO. Also an advocate of CC0, by the way.
Big advocate. Cryptodes was like the first big CCs. Well, I guess it was that and Blipmaps. I feel like were the
Blipmap was
early
technically
two.
first, but Cryptodes I think is the one that had the
Shortly
biggest
after.
narrative around it. Nouns, maybe. I can't remember if Nouns was CC0 at launch or they decided to be that way later on. Anyway.
I think I don't remember either. I was going to say they voted later, but that was also Blipmaps voted later to be CC0.
Yeah.
So I'm now conflating them all.
Yeah. Anyway, so everyone got airdropped these pellets. They've been hovering around 3 ETH floor pretty much consistently since the drop. I think they were like 4 and a bit for a little while, but sat at 3. And then they said reveal is July sometime, which is ages away in the NFT space. And so we don't know too much about it other than they're going to be a sort of distinct offshoot from Moonbirds. And this was not part of the original roadmap. It was not really planned. I believe what happened was Gremplin approached Kevin, Proof team, Moonbird's team, and said, hey, I have an idea. Can we do this thing? And they were like, sure. And then they did it. And now Gremplin is involved with it and they're just running it. And then they have their original plans for Moonbirds running in tandem. Yeah, that's about what I know of it.
Mm-hmm. I saw an interesting post. I think it's Dado, who is lovely on Twitter, and it was basically making the point that Cool Cat's Genesis, they're down to 3 ETH. Basically, Cool Cat's Genesis, I mean, the tweet, I'll just read it out. It says, would you rather have a Genesis Cool Cat's NFT, third generation Owl Vomit, or 4th generation Digital Land? Making the point that Moonbird Oddities is, I guess he's calling it 3rd generation Owl Vomit, and then the other deeds, the other side metaverse, Yuga Labs metaverses are also at about 3 ETH a piece. And so he's saying like Cool Cat's is the same price as the Oddities and the other side, and like, he's obviously, it's a very leading question the way he's phrased this. He's saying you should want Cool Cats. I feel like I'm the only person on earth who seems to be as fascinated by the Cool Cats thing. Like they're at 3 ETH. They were like once considered such blue chip. I feel like they're just like, I think I've used this terminology. I feel like they're like the ugly stepsister of NFTs now. Like they just like fell into oblivion, and I'm so confused by the fact that there's not more conversation around it, or am I just missing that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some conversation, but it's not a massive topic. They've just sort of like slowly faded from just
relevancy. It seems like,
which is obviously sad, and they were just such a, like they were considered the blue chip. It was Bored Apes, it was Punks, Bored Apes, Cool, and then the third position was like Cool Cats, Guarded Cats, and then Cool Cats sort of broke away and like sort of had that really high floor for a while. Had great plans, great branding around the family friendliness and et cetera, et cetera. They're doing a lot of cool stuff. And then I think sort of whether they did this or not, but the community certainly thinks that they sort of went all in on this Cooltopia idea, this game, this layer 2, the cool pets, the milk token. And almost however you look at it, that has been sort of a disaster. Like, I don't want to call it a failure because the whole market is down and who knows where it's going to go from here. And they have shipped a product and people do say the game is fun. But in terms of like timeline, it was meant to be in like end of January, I think. And there was delay after delay after delay, issue after issue. And then I think people just kind of got fed up with tracking it and staying on top of it. So that, and then when the game did finally get released, it had been so far along that there was so many other things happening in the market that it just didn't capture the attention as it would have back then. And I mean, and they also did some, I think, again, I'm not 100% sure, some crazy thing like 2 months ago where they sort of increased the secondary market royalties on the collection just to sort of increase revenue. And they're like, well, to fund the game development, et cetera, et cetera. And they got a lot of backlash, A, because community hates when projects do that, but B, it was like, well, you didn't even ship a great project and now you want to increase royalties. That just seems backwards. And they had the whole drama about the CEO quitting, or they brought a CEO on and then they left or something. And then,
the CEO left and now they're looking for a new one. Yeah. So let me ask you, I mean, I take this question seriously. If I'm sure you have all 3 of these things, but I know you do, right? But if you weren't Zeneca with all of your ETH and fancy NFTs and things, like on the merits, which would you rather have, a Cool Cat, an Oddity, or an other deed? Piece of land?
I've actually been asked this question like 4 times this week, just because a lot of people are wondering this in my Discord and stuff. And I say, when I'm not dying, is Oddity. That's just my pick. It's close. They're all, I think, still great projects. And having exposure to the Yuga ecosystem is fantastic, but it's one of 100,000, soon to be 200,000 plots of land. and that to me seems just, I mean, supply and demand is just crazy. And
I also am like very down on land sales, which I've now ranted about several times on this podcast. But
and then okay, let's say Cool Cats and Oddities. It's almost like Cool Cats are on the way down clearly, and they've fallen a lot. The attention is not on them, and it's going to take. It's really difficult to bring the attention back onto an existing project, short of massive announcements and collaborations. Versus sort of a just recently launched project, an upcoming project. They have the reveal still to come. And it's just like this year has been kind of all about Proof, Moonbirds, and our Oddities, the Grails project. Everything that they're doing is like really executing on a high level. And even in the bear market, both the Proof Pass and Moonbirds have sort of been, I think, holding up better than any other project percentage-wise. And it's exposure to that ecosystem. In some way, it's not like... It's not an official, well, I don't know where it sits in like tier levels, but it's certainly very closely affiliated with the whole thing. And to me, again, I'm I can't speak today, extremely/extraordinarily bullish on Kevin Rose and Proof and Moonbirds and that whole ecosystem. So, and Gremplin is such an OG artist. So Oddity is my pick.
Yeah, I think I agree. And part of it is I have a cool pet, which I've talked about before. I still haven't figured out. I just haven't taken the time to figure out how to hatch the thing. So it's still just an egg, which is part of the problem. Is it just feels a little bit, I don't know if it's their fault or my fault, right? Like that I don't know how to make my cool egg a cool pet or whatever, But so I'm a little bit in that ecosystem already. So I want to be in the Kevin Rose ecosystem, and I'd also go probably Oddity. Let me ask you this, because I've been somewhat bullish on Cool Cat's ability to at least have another pump in them or something. And part of that has been on the basis of seeing like pudgy penguins come back to life.
Right. Yeah.
But how much do you think, I'm curious if almost like what happened with pudgy penguins was this like fast fall from grace where you had this community that was still really active, holding the bag, upset and feeling like, oh my God, this is, I just lost a bunch of money and it crashed really fast and whatever. And so there was all this eagerness for it to come back to life and the community to rally around it, where Cool Cats just sort of had this slow descent of probably many of the original holders kind of selling off as things weren't happening. So you don't have this community desperate for a rebound. And therefore they may not have the same, like the community may not have the same hunger for a resurgence. What do you think of that theory?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good theory, and I would say for most projects would probably hold up true. Cool Cats, I would say, probably are an exception because of just how popular they were, how strong the community was, and still is. Like, I don't want to dismiss the community.
Sure,
there still is a strong community, and they're doing a lot of cool things. And I really, like I said before, how difficult it is for a project to turn around and get the attention back on them. They really need a big announcement and thing. Cool Cats is certainly the project that can do that. Like, they have such an identifiable brand. Klon, the artist, is just a wonderful person and just, really passionate about the project. And, I think I've heard a lot of sort of criticism over the last few months talking about how they shouldn't have done the game. And they had such a perfect family-friendly brand. Why aren't there Cool Cat branded shirts in Target, Kmart, whatever shops? Why aren't there, just whatever events or TV shows, comics that are family-friendly, educating people about NFTs via the Cool Cat IP? And I think they have valuable IP still if they do something with it. Put a good team together, launch something that can really go mainstream. I think that can and probably will rally a big push at some point. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Remain bullish on a Cool Cat's resurgence someday. As somebody who doesn't hold a cat but holds an egg. I've mentioned this in the podcast before. They hired like a really top tier recruiting firm to find them a CEO. Like if Coca-Cola is looking to find a CEO, like this is who Coca-Cola looks to from like a recruiting firm perspective. So like they're taking themselves seriously, which I think is great.
Living a bankless life requires taking control over your own private keys. And that's why so many in the Bankless Nation already have their Ledger hardware wallet. And brand new to the Ledger lineup of hardware wallets is the Ledger Nano S Plus, a huge upgrade to the world's most popular hardware wallet. With more memory and a larger screen, the Nano S Plus makes it easy to navigate and verify your transactions. And the paired Ledger Live desktop app gives you increased transparency as to what is about to happen with your NFT. What you see is what you sign. The Nano S Plus gives you the smoothest possible user experience while you're doing all of your crypto things. So go to the Ledger website to check out the features of the new Ledger Nano S Plus and join the waitlist to get yours. And don't forget about the Crypto Life card, also powered by Ledger. The CL card is a crypto debit card that hooks right into the Ledger Live app, right next to all the DeFi apps and services that you're already used to doing, like swapping tokens and staking. So if you don't have a Ledger hardware wallet, go to ledger.com, grab a Ledger, and take control over your crypto. If you're starting on your NFT journey, you need MetaMask. This is your tool to unlock the world of DeFi and NFTs without giving up custody over your private keys. MetaMask is both a secure in-browser wallet and also a secure bridge for your hardware wallet so that you can connect to any Web3 enabled website. You can now trade tokens with any DEX or aggregator. MetaMask Swap gathers real-time pricing information across the DeFi exchange ecosystem, allowing you to select your best price while getting all of the MetaMask benefits of self-custody, lower gas costs, and increased transaction success rates. MetaMask also has a fantastic mobile wallet, which I use while I'm out and about. And I use it to collect POAPs, NFTs, and use it for all my DeFi things while I'm away from home. If you haven't downloaded MetaMask, you gotta try it out. Download MetaMask for desktop and mobile at metamask.io, or load up your Ledger, Trezor, Keystone, or Lattice hardware wallets so that they too can get into Web3.
Okay, let's talk VeeCon. I don't know. I don't have like a great hot take here. It's funny. It was awesome, and I feel like probably the stuff you've been seeing out of it has been like really bullish and positive.
Yeah.
It's funny. I went from Permissionless, which was the Bankless Blockworks, more DeFi centered conference in Palm Beach, to Minneapolis to VeeCon. So I went straight from one to the other. And I was moderating panels like basically every day for both of these, in some cases like multiple panels a day. So I basically just like spent that week like moderating things and then like prepping to moderate things. And in some ways, moderating panels I found like even required more legwork, it felt like, than interviews, for a couple reasons. One, interviews are like one-on-ones, and so I'm like researching one person. It's pre-recorded, so if something goes poorly, you can redo. The panels are live, and it would be 3 or 4 people, and so I like to do a lot of research. So I'm researching like 3 or 4 people to really get a sense of them. And then trying to think, how do I have 40 minutes, or in some cases 25 minutes for a panel. How do I make sure each person gets to talk enough? Like, you can't go too deep with any of them. Anyways, this is not supposed to be a Carly event session. It was lovely. I feel so grateful to have got to do all this, but it's all to say, like, I really didn't experience either conference that much. Yeah. I spent most of my time at VeeCon kind of behind the scenes, which was fun because you got to see a lot of cool people. I got to see like Snoop when he arrived, and Snoop Dogg arrived like I would hope and expect Snoop Dogg to arrive, which is like an entourage of people and somebody's bumping like music, like some like rap song. And Snoop just like rolls up tall as shit in like a awesome leopard print like thing, and just like is just like everything you could want Snoop Dogg to be in real life, just like actually chilling. And you know, so some other kind of big celebrities were there. You got Eva Longoria, Huda Katan, who I got to interview. That episode came out yesterday. She's incredible. She runs a multi-billion-dollar beauty brand, and just is such a genuine NFT fan. Like you can tell she like actually just loves this stuff.
That's so cool.
And you know, it was in the I guess the Viking Stadium. So massive stadium, just really good vibes and energy. I got to do some events at night, but I tweeted about this. Being an introvert, like it really was. I was like, I did the panels, I prepped for the panels, I did like some level of schmoozing, and then I was just like, oh my God, I need to just go wrap myself in a blanket and stare at a wall for the next like 5 hours, you know? So, I hope I'm not disappointing people without any more hot takes, but
it looked awesome.
That was VeeCon. It was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
It looked like, and talking to people, it seems like it was just the most well-run, fun event for NFTs that most people had been to, that I've spoken to, and that's huge.
It was incredibly well executed, and I will say, from a speaker perspective, you know, they paid for all of our travel, our hotels. Yeah. It was like, you know, a car came and picked us up from wherever we needed to, took us to the airports, you know, drove us back. Like from you know, being sort of a part of the event perspective, I felt so taken care of. Like I haven't had that for any other conference. I'm always paying for my own travel, paying for my own hotels, whatever. And so, you know, that level of detail kind of shows in the end product, I think, if just really well handled.
You can tell, I mean, it's obvious because Gary has been to thousands of conferences, and so he knows what it's like being the speaker, and just, I'm sure knows what makes a good experience. And he's fantastic. And
And one of the big takeaways, I don't know if this has been part of the chatter, but he, or like, you know, on the final day, he announced with Snoop that they're collabing and that anybody who still holds a VeeCon ticket is going to get access to that collaboration.
Yeah.
So it's that I think he's constantly trying to show people what's possible within the NFT space. And, you know, he's said on a number of occasions, ticketing being this big opportunity for it. If you happen to be at the World Series game and your ticket's an NFT and you can now resell that, or, you know, World Series game where something big happens and it has value down the line.
Exactly.
So I think he's doing that. He's forcing that here by saying, hey, we're going to have a long tail for anybody who has these tickets. And so he you know, is obviously very bullish on the Gary ecosystem.
Yeah. I had an inkling that might happen. But I was also a bit bummed because I gave my ticket away, and then I was like, you know, because I wasn't going to attend, and I missed the opportunity to sell it at like 1.5 ETH or whatever, and it got down to 0.1, 0.2. I was like, I'm not going to sell it I'm just going to give it to someone who needs it. And then this news happened, and like the floor price went back up to almost an ETH, and I was like, huh, damn. Yeah. But then I think it came back down a lot.
It's down to like 0.4 now. That was like one of those golden moments where like I sold the top. I had 2 tickets, and I sold one of them for 2 ETH. Like literally the top of the top, and then still have one, so which is great. So I'm gonna take advantage of this, whatever this Snoop news is. Okay, I want to talk about Chimpers. I want to talk about FXHash. Did you want to say something that was something you had sort of flagged as just being exciting, happening in the world of NFTs? Talk us through the FXHash. Explain to people what this is for anybody who maybe isn't familiar.
So FXHash it's basically a platform where artists can release, sell generative art, and collectors can buy generative art. It's similar to art blocks, except it's a platform that releases generative art, but there are at least two massive differences. The first is it's not on Ethereum, it's on the Tezos blockchain, which has pros and cons. A lot of the pros are transaction fees are basically zero. It's way more environmentally friendly, and so a lot of artists and collectors appreciate it for those two facts. Cons might be there's a little skepticism about how relevant it's going to be in 5, 10, 50 years and all that kind of stuff. And the other big difference is there's zero curation. So art blocks you have to apply, and then they have 3 different sort of collections: the curated, playground, and factory. And depending on what you're trying to release and how your application goes, you'll be eligible into one of those 3 basically, or one of the 2. And it's very difficult to get, say, curated on art blocks, but even factory, a lot of people apply, not that many people get through. Whereas FXHash, anyone can release anything. And it's this interesting, it allows for this really interesting mechanic of like price discovery, because in art blocks, there's sort of the platform them saying, hey, we've curated these artists and these collections. We think that they're valuable or different or innovative, and the community, and there's like sort of like a limited supply. Like a lot of people said art blocks had oversupply, and that was a big issue, prices coming crashing down. FXHash has infinite supply. Like there's just constantly hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of new pieces of art dropping every single day. And then it's sort of like the community gets to dig through, find the gems, follow the artist, see what they release, see if that artist has released 50 collections already, and maybe that dilutes the value because of the supply, or maybe they're all amazing collections and the collection sizes are different. So sometimes with art blocks, what happens is that an artist might say they get an opportunity to release there, but they might not know if they can ever release there again, and then they try and release like an edition that's like 1,000 mints or 500 mints, obviously because they can capitalize and get more money, and it might be their only opportunity. In FXHash, you get artists releasing collections that have like 20 mints, 50 mints, 10 mints, 100 mints all the time, and it leads to a different type of generative art curation and collection. Anyway, that's sort of what it is, and it's just been blowing up last 6 months, but especially the last 1 to 2 months, and sort of prices are going like 10x, 100x, 1000x in some instances. Yeah,
I mean, we're seeing this broadly. I think we have other L1s that are doing well right now in the bear market. I think for the first time, Magic Eden, which is the Solana marketplace, exceeded OpenSea for daily volume of transactions. It feels like this bear market is bringing some energy to some of these other layer ones who have lower gas fees, just a different value proposition. If I'm not mistaken, I cannot buy, I was trying to buy some FXHash pieces and I couldn't get on the Tezos chain, I think in the United States, or maybe it's just the state of New York. New York has very restrictive crypto laws. And when I was trying to get like a Tezos wallet and buy Tezos, it was not available to me. So y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but
I'm certain you're wrong about the United States because I
US.
have friends in there, but I'm not positive about New York itself. Yeah, I would find that strange.
Yeah,
but,
I'm in New York and not allowed to buy Tezos from exchanges. Now that was November
Wow.
of 2021. I don't know if that's changed, but I last year was trying to get on FXHash and I couldn't basically enter the
a shame.
ecosystem. I think if you use like a VPN and you can hide your, you can basically hide your location.
Yeah.
I mean, it's illegal at that point, but I think there are people who do that. But
maybe you could use a bridge,
frustrating.
like instead of buying off an exchange, buy from someone, or have someone send you Tez. Oh, it seems crazy to be illegal to own a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I think it's buying.
Yeah.
We must get Tezos is just banned by New York, the state of New York. New York has
That's
very
so
restrictive
wild.
laws. It's so wild. I mean,
Yeah.
even I stake a little bit of ETH on
yeah.
I think Celsius or USDC. I don't know what I stake on. Just something on Celsius. And if I'm not mistaken, I basically, if I ever wanted to like get my yield off of that, I'd have to drive into New Jersey and then I could take my yield out.
That's so crazy.
It's same with like sports betting. Like for a while, sports betting you couldn't do in New York, but you could do it in Jersey. And so we would like go to Jersey. Zach would bet on games. I mean, it's very strange.
Stupid.
Very stupid. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how much more we have to talk about and how limited we have time-wise. Okay, Chimpers, I'm going to go through this. Was there anything else you wanted to say on FXHash blowing up? People should check it out. Art,
Just
you're big on
definitely
generative
people should check it out. And I'll plug Zen Academy because within there we have the FXHash channel and there's a lot of great chat on there. So, actually no, let me plug the FXHash Discord. That's just a better place. Yeah, go learn. Yeah.
Great. Okay, Chimpers is a project that I feel like has been one of these ones that sort of surged over the last couple of weeks, and I started digging into it because it's interesting. You know, I feel like to the point of things stabilizing, it feels like when you have projects that were previously unknown or like new projects sort of coming up, that's a good sign that people are feeling a little bit confident again and things are stabilizing. Because there was a little touch and go there for a little while where it felt like nobody was going to buy a new project. Yeah. What blew my mind about Chimpers, and I think I messaged you this, was I realized the Chimpers Genesis collection has like a 35 ETH floor, and I was like, how? I didn't know anything about it. Did you know about this project before? Did you know about
I'd
Chimpers
heard about
Genesis?
it, but yeah, I'd heard about it and I'd seen like the art and it really appealed to me. I never dug deep because there's too many projects. But I knew it existed, say, 6 months ago, so I missed it when it first came out, but I was slightly aware of it, but just, yeah.
Yeah, so what struck me is I was like, oh my God, a 35 ETH floor. I think at various points it's been over 40. And I was like, how did I kind of miss this thing? I don't tend to be like a pixel art girl, you know? So that's part of it, is it just like doesn't appeal to me as an artistic style, but I recognize its value. Here's what I realized. There's 100 of these Genesis chimps or something, 111, a tiny supply. I think there's been 3 sales total. Like if you look at OpenSea. So I think it's this case of very few holders who just don't list or they just list at these very high prices. And you've had basically 3 sales for over 30 ETH and 3 sales total in the life cycle of the project. So it's a little bit misleading. I think it's a little bit hard to know what the quote unquote true market price of it is.
Yeah,
you know,
if you wanted to liquidate today, what would someone pay you for it?
Correct. Yeah. Unclear. Though I think with this new, and this Chimpers project, I think is like 5,555, something like that. Again, lower than 10K supply. I think partly it might be doing well right now. We're getting some attention right now is because it has that similar to Moonbird's aesthetic. And the artist is also a NounsDAO artist in some capacity, like has contributed to NounsDAO in some way. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an anonymous artist, which anonymous team. Chimpers is the lead of the project. But I will say he does provide like more information about himself that's verifiable on the Chimpers website. So he would fall in that category. Like OK Bears, I was like, felt like Azuki to me. I was like anonymous and I like really, I can listen to his Twitter spaces with you, but I really don't feel like I can verify information. Chimpers I felt a little bit more comfortable with. So anyway, I wanted to just flag that project. Its collection's doing reasonably well, and it was just a case of like dig a little bit deeper. If you see these really high floor prices, sometimes there's more to the story than what you see. Do you think you'll buy in any other?
Chimpers, I have one, so I was on the mint list to mint, and that was an interesting thing as well.
You just get put on these things, I assume, right? They're just like, we just want you to know.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This time I was fortunate enough to, because we ran a giveaway for Zen Academy, and then they said we'll add you to the list as well, and I was like, okay, I appreciate that. And I mean, I get put on these lists and I get free NFTs, but I never sell them because I think we spoke about this once. I got sent a Fanta bear, I think, as a total gift, just like, hey, we want to send it to you, we expect nothing. Went up to like 7 ETH, and I was tempted to sell. I was like, it feels weird to sell something that I just got sent for free. And anyway, obviously very grateful to have all of this stuff. So yeah, but the mint price 0.07, I think, or 0.08, and just immediately they were trading for like 4 ETH. So a lot of people were sort of giving them props, saying they could have easily had a mint price of 0.5 or 1 ETH or did a Dutch auction, but they wanted to keep it sort of accessible and sort of, really affordable for new collectors. And I think that's just something to be highlighted and commended, really.
Yeah. Yeah, talented. It seems like a talented team. They, again, you get a vibe. It's got that 90s like video game feel to it. And
very
sort
nostalgic.
It's very nostalgic, and the artist is obviously talented and very in the space. So, other projects I wanted to talk about: StarTrek NFTs. This is another case where I was like, look beyond the curtain. There's more to this story than meets the eye. Have you been tracking the StarTrek NFTs at all?
No, not really. I remember hearing about Recur, the marketplace, ages ago, but I haven't really been following what. It's big news, right? StarTrek NFTs should be big.
Yeah, they launched with Recur. I interviewed Zach Brush, actually, who's one of the CEOs and founders of Recur at Permissionless. And they put out this big press release that was like, we sold out in 5 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever. But they had several tiers to the drop. They had Admiral ships, which was like the highest tier, and some of this information, John, my good friend John Rogers, who feeds me all the juicy tidbits, he really tracked this down. So, and there was 5,000 of those that were these Admiral ship level. That's what sold out in minutes. But you had the second tier that was like captain ships. They had 15,000 of those, and I think only like 3,000 sold.
Okay.
And then you even had this like overflow tier that had like an extra 2,000. That was like an overflow tier, which I think all of this was set up for the press release, right? They put out a big press release after saying they sold out in minutes. So clearly they were sort of trying to gear everything towards the press release. And if they had sold out everything, they would have been like, we even sold out our overflow, supply. Yep. But here's the even, I think, more interesting piece, or the takeaway on this. So that Admiral ship tier was basically, you had to have a recur pass to mint at that level. So it's people who are clearly like very NFT native, because they would have bought a Recur pass when Recur launched, which was pre even announcing a Star Trek anything. And so it seems like really you don't have a lot of Star Trek fans that got into this, And here's the other thing that I think, there's a couple learnings I'm going to flag for folks, but I think this is something that, again, sort of coming from John. He said, first of all, he knows some people who were at like the Star Trek convention. There was some Star Trek convention that happened recently where they sort of announced this partnership. There was very little buzz among any like kind of the Trekkie community. And then also all of like the really good ships that are from like the original Star Trek were in that Admiralty tier where you needed the Recur pass. So it seemed like maybe it was a strategy to get Trekkies to like buy into the Recur pass. But the end result was basically that like the general fans that were going to buy into this like captain ship level, like it was all the kind of side ships that are on like the spin-off shows. I don't know. I'm not a Trekkie. I don't know how to say this, but I think the learning, I think you hear this from founders a lot. It's just making sure that every tier and all of the rarities are cool and desirable. And that what can happen sometimes is you have this too much of a stratification between like the upper tranches are really sick, and then like the floor ones kind of suck. And then people go and like look at your collection on OpenSea or wherever, it looks shitty. And I feel like that's maybe a takeaway that the Recur team should have here, or the Star Trek team or whatever, because it seems like they really struggled to sell out those kind of second tier ones, because it really aren't the ships that the fans would want. And then it also feels a little bit like they didn't optimize this for bringing new people into NFTs. They sort of optimized it for the Recur fans who are maybe already in NFTs. So
it's a shame.
I know.
Like just the opportunity that you use a Star Trek IP, you could just do so much incredible stuff. I'm sure they will in the future, but
I'm sure they will too. I think it also, like, I don't want to give them too much of a hard time. Like I think it's also early. I mean, Batman had the same thing. So I missed this, but Batman did a Bat Cows. I guess it's Paramount did like an NFT called Bat Cows, where it was like the Batman like faces or something. And they, I think, had a supply of like 100,000, 200,000. They had a really big supply, and they sold out like 10,000 of them. And it was a timed thing. So like after the window closed, that's it. That's all there will ever be. And I've been talking about this with John Rogers. He has his thoughts as to why it didn't sell out and the ways they maybe could have made it better and on and on. And I think it's more about like the macro. Like I think we are just a little bit early for some of these like beloved brands. The Star Trek people are gamer people who probably are like skeptical and hate NFTs, right? And there was, you know, only so much that the team could do to really lure them in. And I say this because with the Bat Cows, I missed this, but they'd actually linked in me. I saw this well after the fact, like asking to do a Twitter space with me. To like talk about what they were trying to do. And I watched some other interviews with them where they're like, there is utility tied to this. They're giving people tours of studios. And like, by and large, I think they're actually really trying with the Bat Cow to do it well. You know, and they still didn't mint out. And I really do think it's just still quite early for a lot of these traditional fandoms to be getting on board. And I think maybe that's the reality.
No, I agree. Totally. Yeah.
So I do feel for them. I do think in this case there were some shortcomings that could have been improved upon, but and hopefully will in the future. Love, Death, and Robots. Sorry, last thing I'll say on this, you know, kind of corporate franchises entering is I think doing something very cool. I don't know if you've tracked what they're doing.
QR codes, right?
They have the show on Netflix, and they're hiding QR codes within episodes of the show, within social media on the show, and you scan the QR code, you pay the gas fee, and you can mint one of their NFTs. They're doing 9 for each of the 9 episodes. That does feel kind of novel, integrated. Again, like it's going to be on Netflix. You're going to, you know, hold up to your TV or whatever and get an NFT. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And they're free, I believe. I think it's just gas.
I think they are, yeah.
Yeah, it's free plus gas. So, okay. As we run out of time here, Parallel Pack.
So much more.
Parallel announced they're launching their next pack in June. Huxley Chapter 4 is coming.
That's exciting.
Should we do Huxley? You interviewed Ben Morrow.
I did. I'm just looking through. The Seth Green stuff, like that sounds fascinating. And I don't know much about it, so...
Oh, shit. Man, we need to do a 2-hour episode. This is going to be crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry I'm cursing so much, too.
It's fine. Yeah. And then there's the new OpenSea. There's Jenkins of LA. I don't know. Maybe some of this stuff we can save for next week, like the OpenSea thing, I think.
Okay.
They actually launched a new UI like today, like within the last couple of hours. So that's something we can talk about next week as well.
Okay, we'll do OpenSea. Well, you're not on next week. You want to come on next week? We'll do 2 recurring Moment of Zenecas back to back.
Yeah. Well, we can find a time. I'll be in Dubai, but I can find a time. Yeah.
I'll just come to Dubai. We'll just do it in person. That's great. No problem. All right. Well, we'll talk offline about it. Okay. I'll give my Seth Green take as fast as possible. John Rogers. This is I literally I have no original thought. John Rogers gives me all the thoughts. Okay. Seth Green, actor, was going to launch a show, and I guess probably still is, but that like prominently featured his Bored Ape. He planned to release the trailer for this show at VeeCon. A week before, I think he still did release the trailer at VeeCon, but like a week before all this goes down, or VeeCon goes down basically, and he announces all this, his Bored Ape gets stolen. He gets, caught in one of these phishing scams. Yeah. He loses 4 NFTs, including his Bored Ape that's supposed to star in this show. And now he's like, well, what the heck? Like I have this entire show built around this ape that I no longer technically have ownership rights to. And it's been this like funny saga playing out on Twitter where like Seth announced it's been hacked. Somebody stole it. So somebody has stolen it. He then starts tweeting at the account like Dark Water 80, I don't know, whatever. He starts tweeting at the account that he thinks has the thing. He's not getting any reply. He starts to be like, I have lots of years of experience in like intellectual property. Like I will sue. This will be an interesting like watermark case around like stolen assets. Basically like, whatever. And then BuzzFeed of all places tracks down the holder, and apparently like the Twitter account that everyone was tweeting at is like not an active one that he really uses, and he kind of uses like a secondary thing, and he basically, this like thief is like some Australian surgeon. He's like just like he lives in Australia. He's just like a dude, and he's like, oh yeah, I didn't really know that this was all going on. When I bought the ape, it wasn't flagged as suspicious or stolen, so I just like bought this ape, put it in a wallet, went on doing my surgery thing, and like have only now realized that anything was even happening. Yeah. So like, sure, I'm open to a conversation with Seth Green, like whatever, like put him in touch. okay, takeaway here, and this is where I think we'll enter this new future. If Seth had licensed this ape to his production company, he could proceed with the show no problem, because that license would have to be honored even if he sold the ape. And this is this really interesting new world, a new paradigm we're entering. And I interviewed Feature.io, who is building out this licensing platform that Coinbase is using to cast apes in their show. As we're starting to enter this like kind of traditional Hollywood world of like, you know, you could have somebody like cast their World of Women in like a porn film and then try and sell it to somebody. And like, you know, like, I just think it's really interesting once we start to get into this world of setting up media deals for your NFT, but then the NFT fundamentally being an asset that can be sold or stolen or whatever. So the moral here is like, would have been interesting to see, like, you know, Seth could have licensed it. He would have prevented a lot of headache. I mean, there still would be headache and he'd still be fighting to get it back, but at least like the future of his project wouldn't be in jeopardy in the same way. And that's really been a learning for me of understanding how traditional Hollywood works. I was like, John, are there comparables to this in the real world? He's like, all the time. You can have a project and you've signed a deal for a film project, for example, with a costume designer. And then if you sell the rights to that script or to the project, the new owner inherits that deal with that costume director. And if they want to end it, they have to buy them out in some capacity. Like, you know, you don't get to just sell the project and then get yourself out of a deal that's been signed with that project. So he's saying that the same will hold true in the NFT world, and that we're going to enter this new era where there's a lot more of that going on. The second you want to do a project with your NFT, make a license of some sort happen, so that you can prevent these kinds of things. But then my next iteration of that is like, it'll be fascinating to see if you start to have people do like weird deals that people don't want, and that will impact the value of an, you know, again, your World of Women is now in like some weird porn thing, and like the next holder is entitled to know that. And anyway, just it's lots of wild. Thoughts.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Honestly, it's like new frontiers basically all over the place, and it's going to be an interesting. Just 1,000 years ahead of us, but let's say the next 10 years going to be fascinating.
And this will happen. Like, you will have a major project where like one of the characters is involved in like some like, you know, like thing that a future holder would not want it involved in. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out for the project as a whole, right? That's obviously the concern with a CC0. It's the concern with, you know, these really expansive rights projects. Well, I think it's awesome, and I think it opens all these new frontiers. I think there are long-term brand risks that are associated with that. We're doing a CC0 panel, and you're going to be on it. We're just, Jimmy, I'll shout him out. We're trying to, Jimmy's wild man schedule is what we're trying to coordinate around. So we're going to debate it, because Jimmy's a little bit anti-CC0. You're pretty pro. We got DC Investor who's pro. And then I think we're bringing in the former general counsel from Lucasfilm to kind of take on, to be with Jimmy. And so I think it'll be a really good panel.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Okay, that's my Seth Green take and where the world is going. Thanks for hopping on as always. Thanks for listening, y'all, and have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.